Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
Now, here is a motion picture film.
And now, ladies and gents, it's showtime!
To do the bimes.
Say hello to my little friend!
Go ahead. Make my day.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle.
Inconceivable!
Welcome to the All-American Spook Show podcast.
I'm sorry, boys. I'm afraid I can't do that. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the All-American Spook Show. I'm Josh, and I'm joined here with Donnie.
Hey.
Will.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoke.
Yep.
So it's very fortunate, Will, that you made it here this week, because I'm pretty sure you nominated this one and we spun the wheel and it landed on it, right?
Sure.
I think so. I think that's how we got to this one, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's how it happened.
So yeah, there we go. We're going to be talking about Fight Club from 1999, which on the surface you're like, Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, cult movie, what the fuck? But like, even though this is a big budget movie, it very much underperformed in the box office. I mean, you could barely say they ended up making money on it. I think it probably definitely at least broke even and then made more money for sure once it got to DVD and everything. But I think critically it wasn't really acclaimed at the time, believe it or not. And then it was kind of upon further review years later that it's kind of become more of a cult favorite, and it's kind of become somewhat even bigger in the, 5, 10, 15, 20 years later than it was even at the moment that it came out. Now, I would also add that we were probably in that age range of like, this is perfect. So we all loved it when it came out, right? Because I think for myself, I was 19 when this came out. So this was like right in my wheelhouse at the time. But I think like by and large, it wasn't necessarily loved until some time had passed. So we'll get into a little bit more of that.
Fincher was a fan of the novel, right? And he just wanted to do the movie.
Yeah. Sort
of a pet project or something, and they just gave it to him. Okay, he's enthusiastic about it, and then the box office didn't, unfortunately, cooperate.
So we'll get into more background information here shortly, but we want to put out on Front Street. If you have not seen Fight Club, we encourage you to hit pause now. Go track it down. I think there's multiple places you can watch it. Go check it out if you haven't seen it, and then come back and listen to the rest of this episode, because I think this is one that you want to see. If you have not seen this, you need to go see this. We also encourage you to go over to aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe, where you can go see all of our latest YouTube videos there. We've got Spook Show Rewind, Hammer Horror in Order, Video Vortex, Grindhouse Gutter, all the separate series that we do over on YouTube just about every week, every month. Those are available over there on YouTube. And we also encourage you to go to patreon.com/AASpookShow, where every month you get our video minisodes, which include the Library of the Professor. And of course, the biggest highlight there is the Crapster Piece Theater that we do every month. Every month we run a poll we nominate 4 big steaming piles of crap, and you vote on them. And if you vote on these polls, you owe it to us to go become a patron at patreon.com/AASpookShow. Since you are the ones that made us watch this particular movie, you should have to pay to listen to it, at least. Come on, help us out. So just last month we had to watch Troll 2, which, good Lord Almighty. The polls just closed the other day for here in the month of April, so we cannot announce just yet. We're still tabulating, so to speak, what the winner will be here for April, but that episode will come out at the end of the month on April 28th over on patreon.com/AASpookShow, so we encourage you to go check that out. So without any further build-up, we'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Fight Club.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Why? How much can you know about yourself? You've never been in a fight.
Wait, let me start earlier. Like many of you, I was stuck.
You want me to deprioritize my current reports until you advise of a status upgrade?
Make these your primary action items.
I couldn't sleep.
No, you can't die from insomnia.
I'd flip through catalogs and wonder, what kind of dining set defines me as a person? This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time. I prayed for a different life.
Soap. I make and I sell soap.
This is how I met Tyler Durden.
Come on, hit me before I lose my nerve. Ow! It hit me in the ear!
It was on the tip of everyone's tongue.
Can I be next?
We just gave it a name.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club. First rule of Fight Club is... Wow, nice. You do not talk about Fight Club.
Is that your blood? Some of it, yeah.
After Fight Club, we all started seeing things differently.
You're gonna have to keep me up all night.
And she ruined everything.
You're not into her, are you?
No, God, not at all.
We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't.
We had a plan. To what purpose? In Tyler we trusted.
I gotta take Fight Club up a notch. Each one of you has a homework assignment. You're gonna start a fight with a total stranger.
That's not necessary.
You're gonna lose.
That hurt.
You were looking for a way to change your life. You got it.
I'm stopping this.
It's already done, so shut up.
What kind of sick game are you playing? Oh my God.
Kids.
This is too much.
In the end, you will thank me.
Whoa! Whoa!
If you fight anyone, who would you fight?
Shatner. I'd fight William Shatner.
All right, so there you go. So I'm going to assume right out the gates, we have all seen this movie multiple times, right?
Yeah.
What movie is this again?
It's a Zombie Fight Club. Isn't that the one you watched?
Yeah.
We don't really need to go into a deep discussion of our history with it and everything. But I will add, though, that I actually got to see this a couple of days before it came out. When I was, at the time when this movie came out, I was working in a movie theater, and I was there that night that they built the print, when they got the print in. So this was like a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or something, you know, a couple of days before it got released wide. And I stuck around, because the way it used to always work is they'd build the print, and then somebody had to sit there and watch it to make sure the reels were in order and there were no big mistakes or anything like that. So me and a couple other guys that worked there, we stayed and watched that, and then we were all just like, holy shit, that was awesome, you know, like instantly that night. So it became a favorite of mine, you know, speaking for myself, like right there from that night, and I've seen it multiple times since then. So, but this movie actually debuted September 10th of 1999 at the Venice Film Festival. Did pretty well, and then eventually got released October 15th here in the United States and other countries. So it opened wide October 15th of 1999. It was produced by Fox 2000 Pictures, Regency Enterprises, and Linson Films, and it was distributed by 20th Century Fox. Of course, if you've seen this movie, you know it's rated R. Total runtime of 2 hours and 19 minutes, which sounds a bit on the long side, but it really does not feel like a 2 hour, 19-minute film.
No.
It
it hits pretty quick, and it's, I mean, we've sat through movies that are, under 2 hours that feel like, two. I mean, feel like.
We've sat through movies that were less than an hour and a half that felt like way longer
double
than
that.
This movie. Yeah, for sure. On IMDb, of course, it's listed as a drama. The movie was filmed in various locations in and around Los Angeles, California, from June 1st to December 11th of 1998. So it was a long production window there for a budget of roughly somewhere between $63 to $65 million, which when I was doing some research, apparently that was one of the problems with it, was that the budget kept going up. And when it started to balloon, there was some people involved that wanted to pull the funding. They're like, yeah, this is you're getting in over your head. And David Fincher, who directed it, was like, no, I got to have this money. So he ended up taking a little less to finish, I guess, just to get the finished product out there. But so it was roughly around 63 to 65 million, and it went on to a worldwide gross of $101.2 million, which, like I said off the top, on the surface sounds like, well, it did pretty well. But I think with the, all the money that they put into it to for the PR and all that type of stuff, they barely, at least broke even or maybe made a little profit. And it actually gained more steam and probably got more money on DVD rentals and everything and purchases after the fact once it was released in 2000 on home video. That weekend that it came out was the weekend of October 15th through the 17th, 1999. So here we go with the top 10 at the box office that week. Number 10, which also had opened up that weekend, The Omega Code. I don't remember that one. Number 9.
It sounds familiar.
I just don't recall it. Number 9, Blue Streak. I think that was Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Number 8, The Sixth Sense. It was in its 11th week. And I will say, I was working in the theater at this time. That movie was still kicking ass. Like, even though it's only number 8 and it had been out 11 weeks, man, almost every show we had of that, especially on the weekends back then, that thing was packed. Like, people just couldn't get enough of The Sixth Sense when it was still playing here. Number 7, Superstar. That SNL. Yeah, that SNL movie. Number 6, Random Hearts. Number 5, American Beauty. That's another great one of the time. Number 4, Three Kings. Number 3, also in its opening weekend, The Story of Us. Number 2, in its 4th week, Double Jeopardy. And it had been doing pretty well the previous few weeks before that. And number 1, the big debut, Fight Club. It made just over $11 million in its opening weekend. So started off really well, and I think it kind of it played for a while, but it kind of went down from there, as most movies do. But yeah, there's your box office snapshot there. Of course, this movie is based on the novel Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. Is that how you say his name? I think we'll go with it.
Yep.
Chuck Palahniuk. Yeah. This was interesting too. How sometimes we see like alternate casting type stuff. When I was digging around, I found the 3 main roles of the one that went to Edward Norton, right? I'd never really noticed it either, by the way. That in the credits they credit him as the narrator. He doesn't have a name. He's just,
yeah.
And then when you think about it, you never, we'll get
you never learn his name.
You never learn his name. But you do, but you don't.
You do, but
Then we'll get into that once we get into the movie. But they originally wanted either Matt Damon or Sean Penn to play that role, and basically Fincher's like, no, I want Edward Norton, based on some other movie that he had done that he had seen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think he would be right for it. So he got the role, and they paid him $2.5 million. But they wanted a bigger name, which eventually went to Brad Pitt, right? But they had originally wanted Russell Crowe for the role of Tyler Durden that went to Pitt, and then eventually he took the role, and they paid him $17.5 million. And the more interesting one was the role of Marla Singer, which was played by Helena Bonham Carter. They originally wanted Janine Garofalo.
Oh, God.
And then essentially, like, I think a couple people involved, no, she would not. That's it. That doesn't work. So they had another short list. Courtney Love, Winona Ryder, and apparently the studio really pushed hard for Reese Witherspoon to play.
I could see Winona Ryder in it.
Absolutely. But... I mean, her and Helena Bonham Carter are really kind of interchangeable pieces in a lot, the way they are. But...
Just about.
Yeah. Courtney Love probably would have been all right, but Janine Garofalo or Reese Witherspoon, like...
No.
I'm guessing that Reese Witherspoon suggestion was like hot off of Cruel Intentions.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. It might have been, but whatever came out in the time period. And also, once again, like I said, Fox was really trying to get some big names attached to this, because I think once they started seeing some of it, and they weren't apparently. I don't know what may or may not have changed. I didn't get deep into the story, but it sounded like whoever was hot on this thing at first wasn't hot on it by the time they started making it. So like Fox didn't really get behind this movie as much as you would have thought. So they really felt...
It cut some of the funding for promoting it too, which is probably another thing that kind of shot it in the foot as far as
they did. Apparently, Fincher wanted to go one completely different other way of like how they're going to promote it, and then they're like, nope, shut that shit down. And I think that didn't help how much it made either, because I don't know exactly what he had planned, but they didn't do it. So I think that, getting back to the point, is they wanted bigger names to help sell this thing, because, well, if, I guess Reese Witherspoon at the time was a bigger name than Helena Bonham Carter, right? So that's who they wanted, but luckily Fincher won that war, or whoever did the casting there. Brad Pitt actually had pieces of his teeth chipped off for this role, basically so his teeth wouldn't be perfect. So he actually had some of his teeth, like, went to a dentist and had them like chipped off, and eventually went back and fixed it, obviously, after the fact. But I thought that was pretty interesting. That's really getting in.
Yeah.
When you go to the dentist, say, knock some of my teeth, parts of my teeth out, so I can do this role. And just for such a subtle thing too, it's not like it was. I mean, yes, it might have been a little key to the character in his presentation, but it's not like it was entirely necessary, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's some dedication to it, especially when it didn't make the money back. And you're like, damn, I did all that, and the box office not good for it. Then.
Apparently, some of that too was like Brad Pitt wanting to do something really good after what was it, Meet Joe Black? I think this was after Meet Joe Black, and like that one didn't go off as well as he would have liked. So he was really wanting to try to like sink his teeth, so to speak, into something like, this is something cool. I can get behind this kind of thing. Something that gives you more street cred, I guess, was this movie. Speaking of dedication, Meatloaf.
Oh, yeah.
He wore a 90-pound fat suit, and he wore 8-inch lifts just so he would be taller than Edward Norton. Because I guess they're ritely the same size. Maybe he's a little short. I don't know, but yeah, like that's 90-pound fat suit that gave him the boobs.
Bitch tits.
The bitch tits. Yeah. Talk about long-lasting impacts of this movie, though, when we talked about the cult status of it. This movie, surprise, surprise, it actually led to like real-life fight clubs breaking out in the years that followed it. There were multiple ones that got like started up and shut down by law enforcement in various cities and stuff after this came out. And then some of them actually went so far as to kind of do their own somewhat version, small versions of Project Mayhem. Like they actually started like doing acts of vandalism and other things, and kind of led to some goofy and bad shit, in the years that followed. So I think that's also kind of added to its cult status, I'm sure, to it in the years that have passed.
Kind of going back, you had mentioned that Meatloaf had to wear that fat suit. During the, because he fights, one of the rules is no shirt, no shoes. But Meatloaf fights with a shirt on.
True. Maybe it's because they didn't even want to cross that line. We don't want to see. We don't want to see this. Just keep your shirt.
Don't want to see that.
Your shirt on. Bob.
Hide the fat suit.
I mean, it's probably a good thing too, because I mean that would have just been too absurdist of a moment there.
See his big man tits just flapping everywhere. It was directed by David Fincher, like we mentioned before. Good Lord. I mean, he really is one of the better directors of the last 20 or 30 years, right? He would be known for directing Seven, Zodiac, Gone Girl, The Social Network, Smoke. You might best remember him from directing Alien 3.
Yeah.
Which is really I want to say that might have been his feature film debut, or if it wasn't his very first, it was one of the first. Alien 3.
Yeah, definitely the first. I mean, if not the very first, the first big one for him.
I'm not going to go through the list, but I encourage you to go to IMDb and check out his filmography of things he's directed, because this dude was like the music video guy of the 80s, the 90s, and even into the 2000s. Like some of the biggest artists, music artists of the 80s and all that time period, like Madonna, Michael Jackson, all kinds of other bands, got him to direct their music videos. So like, just go on that list. I mean, it's a mile long of music videos that David Fincher had worked on before he really got deep into his film career. The screenplay, because obviously this is based on the book, but the screenplay for the movie was written by Jim Olds, who really didn't do anything before or after it. I mean, there was a handful of things, but not much. The only other title that might, set itself apart was he wrote the movie Jumper. But it stars Edward Norton as the narrator. He has been nominated for 3 Oscars throughout his career. You would best probably know him from Primal Fear, American History X, Birdman. I mean, he was just recently in Glass Onion, that Ryan Johnson flick. The dude is solid in just about everything he's in. So, honestly, you could say Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, and Helena Bonham Carter probably in their own ways deserve some type of spotlight episode or something like that. You know, you could go through their careers. They're that big. But it also stars Brad Pitt, like we said, as in the role of Tyler Durden. He actually went on in his career to win 2 Oscars, one for Best Supporting Actor in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino flick. And he also got an Oscar, you know, kind of a lumped-in Oscar with the Best Picture win for 12 Years a Slave. You may know him from 12 Monkeys, Ad Astra, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Moneyball, tons of movies. The list goes on and on. Brad Pitt, we don't need to talk much more about him. Helena Bonham Carter as Marla Singer. She has been nominated for 2 Oscars in her career. She would be known from Sweeney Todd, The Demon, Barber of Fleet Street. She was in The King's Speech, Les Miserables, the film version of that. It also stars Meatloaf as Robert Paulson, Bob, the guy with bitch tits. He is best known for being a singer, right? Like he's a rock and roll artist, or was, unfortunately, in the years since he's passed away. That was just what, in the last year or two, right?
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. For our audience, probably best known from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was also in a couple episodes of Tales from the Crypt, and at least one episode of that other anthology series, Monsters. So that might be some other stuff you might have seen him from in the horror realm. Another kind of a random casting bit, just because of what he went on to do, Jared Leto as Angel Face. He actually went on years later to win a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club. He is the lead singer, guitarist for the band 30 Seconds to Mars. He played the Joker in Suicide Squad. One of Smoke's favorite movies, Morbius.
Yeah. So that's my favorite movie of that year, whatever year it came out.
It's Morbid time.
You beat me to it.
Yeah, somebody was going to say it.
Oh, goddamn.
He was also in the kind of, cult favorite series, My So-Called Life. That's one that kind of took on a life of its own kind of in the years after that. In the horror circles, he was in Urban Legend. He was in American Psycho. He was also in the Blade Runner 2049, the Blade Runner sequel, which I still to this day have not watched. We're just going to have to get that on the damn show so I can sit down and watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen it either. And the Blade Runner is one of my favorite sci-fi movies from the 80s, and I can't believe I haven't seen the sequel. So, yeah, we need to do that on the show.
Yeah.
I'll hold off on it until we do it on the show.
We'll just have to force the issue. But, yeah, Jared Leto, he's had a hell of a career from this somewhat small role here in Fight Club. So, really, there's really is a lot of stuff you could talk about with this movie, but that's where I'm going to kind of leave it. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to, in particular, that you wanted to bring up before we dive in?
Like you said, a lot to cover. I think probably just dive right in.
Mr. Projectionist, stop the show. Here's great news you ought to know. We've just got a shipment of taste-thrilled treats, all tip-top quality and delicious eats. There are hot dogs and popcorn and candy galore. There's soft drinks and coffee and a whole lot more. So direct your steps to our refreshment stand to enjoy the finest snacks in all the land.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So I hopped on over to Audible, typed in Fight Club to see what will pop up, and hey, what do you know? Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, narrated by Jim Colby. That one is a little over 5.5 hours long. So, as far as novels go, not an extremely long listen. Let's see, we've got Feminist Fight Club, an office survival manual for a sexist workplace. Smoke, that sounds like it's right up your alley. By Jessica Butt. A little over 6 hours long. And then we have, that's just the same thing for some reason. They put it on here. Let's see. Marianne and the Playground Fight. The Babysitters Club, book 120. That is awesome. That a Babysitter's Club book.
Fight Club?
Yeah.
No.
When you look up Fight Club, a Babysitter's Club book comes up. That is awesome. And it's an Audible exclusive, so we encourage you.
What's the first rule of Babysitter's Club?
Well, we don't talk about it. That's probably... Or we just write 1,000 books and we talk about it all the time.
Oh.
So yeah, if any of that floats your boat, hop on over to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audio book. So it's a win-win. You get a free book out of it. You help us out. What more can you ask? So I slide back on over to IMDb and I click on plot summary. And what do you know? There's a ton of them on here, Donnie. It's Fight Club. Should I read all of them for you or should I limit it? What do you think? Do you need more information?
No.
Well, I'm going to read a couple anyway. We've got the one sentence one. An insomniac office worker and a devil-may-care soap maker form an underground fight club that evolves into much more. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to read one more, and it's going to be the longest one. I'm just going to get the longer one out of the way. And don't worry, Donnie, it's not as long as some other long ones we've read.
Might as well read the book.
Well, I'm just trying to help you in that regard because you're never going to read the book. So
that's true.
This one was submitted by Gary KMCD on IMDb. A young man leads a pretty humdrum life assessing car crashes to determine if his automobile company should issue recalls to fix problems. He also suffers from insomnia and takes to attending group therapy sessions for people who have survived various diseases. There he meets Marla, who like him attends those sessions, though she is neither a victim nor a survivor. His life changes when he meets Tyler Durden on a flight home. Tyler seems to be everything that he's not, and together they create a men-only group for bare-knuckle fighting. It soon becomes all the rage with fight clubs springing up across the country, and the group itself becoming an anti-capitalist domestic terrorist organization. Tyler and Marla develop a relationship, leaving him often on the outside of what is going on. He soon finds that the group is out of control, and after a major self-revelation, decides there's only one way out. I think it's a pretty good brief synopsis of what's going on here, right? Without giving everything away. Yeah. Not too bad. So, where do you want to start? Do we start off? I think we should just start off with the flash frames of Tyler. Like, if this were, if you weren't listening to
which part of them?
Yeah, if you weren't listening to this wasn't an audio format podcast, we would be splicing in just frames of stuff. Yeah. That'd be the way. But even before you meet Tyler Durden, there's like multiple flash frames of Tyler Durden.
Yeah, you see him in the office, and a little later on, you see him behind the doctor. You see him at the testicle meeting. Yeah.
No better way to say that. I mean, what it is, the ball meeting.
I mean, that's what it is.
Well, the meeting of the ones that no longer have them.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then I guess we could talk about that, right? Where he's going to these various meetups of like the testicular cancer group, and what was some of the other ones, basically to like try and feel action.
Yeah, what it was like bacterial diseases, tuberculosis,
Incest Survivors Club.
Yeah.
How fucked up are you though if you have to just get addicted to support groups just to sleep? But then he meets Marla, who he calls a tourist, but she's doing the same thing that he is doing, right?
Yeah.
He just feels the need to call her out for his bullshit. So then they decide to just split up groups. Like, all right, well, I'll take tuberculosis and bacterial on Mondays and Wednesdays. If you take, like you said,
incest
survivors and, on
whatever it was.
Wednesdays, yeah. So like that's the kind of the thing that they decide to do, so they won't run into each other. He's on a business trip, and then he runs into Tyler. This is where he meets Tyler Durden on a plane, and they kind of instantly strike up an interesting conversation, because he's a soap salesman, and so there you go. That's how they meet. Before Norton's character, the narrator, before he gets home, his condo explodes. I should say during a lot of this too, they've got some really cool special effects going on where they're like when he explains how the condo explodes a little bit later on, and like
you see the stove and the burner, and goes back behind the refrigerator to see the compressor, and then all of that just very slow motion.
And
it looks awesome.
This was the kind of thing that really stuck out to me at the time, because you're still fresh on like seeing The Matrix, right? I think it came out roughly about the same time, maybe a little before this. I don't remember the date, but like this was like the dawn of that next generation of movies where like they were starting to do the CGI stuff and do it right. You know what I mean? Like the bigger budget movies of this caliber were like, yeah, you're getting these cool visuals and everything, and they're done really well. They don't look cheap ass, right?
They don't look like Hellraiser or Hellseeker. Yes.
which came out 3 years after Fight Club.
Yeah.
Well, there's about a $60 million difference in budget, so I'll give them that. But yeah, I think that for me, that's what made this movie stick out as much as, I mean, like, the performances are great and everything, and I've appreciated it more and more as the years go by. But I'm just going back to that moment when I first sat down and watched it the first time in 1999. That was what really set this movie off. Was like, wow, these special effects, when you see them, they're really good.
Yeah, they're really good, but it's not like overdone.
No, it's used as a story, like
exactly.
It's used in the story. It's not just obligatory. Like,
yeah,
here's some cool shit for cool shit's sake. It's like, when you see it, it's like there's a reason.
Hellraiser could only dream.
Well, it was a dream.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Quit bringing it up. That was last week. We don't hear about that shit anymore. That's in the dust. Remember, we're done with it. So yeah, you get to the point where, like, now he has met Tyler, but then, like, Tyler, once his condo explodes, he needs a place to stay, so he ends up staying with Tyler, and then you kind of learn more about Tyler as far as, like, the stuff that he does. Like, they said he, like, works throughout the night or something like that, and he works at a movie theater splicing in frames of porn movies or like 1 or 2 frames of porn, like, saying, like, the latest Disney flick. So, like, they cut to the theater and the kids are sitting there watching it, and then you just hear, ooh.
Look, splicing in a frame. All right, maybe you can get away with that, but not the sound.
Yeah. Dude, even, like, putting a frame in there, I don't think you'd hear it, right? Like, well, maybe you would, but it would be so brief. And they explain that too. Like, it's so brief that, like, you question whether you just saw that or not, kind of thing. And it would be 1 frame.
You don't know you saw it.
Yeah,
you saw it.
But you saw it.
Yeah, subconsciously you saw it.
Show close-ups of kids crying.
But they don't beat around the bush, so to speak, right? Like, you just, for a second there, you straight up see a big cock and balls. Like, boom. But he lives with Tyler in this shithole of a house. Like, it's like he just rolled up and found this house, and it is, like, falling apart. Water, like, every time it rains, just water's pouring from the ceiling. Like, I think he described it like you turn one light on, another one shuts off. Like, it's a true shithole. Then they just randomly, that's the scene where Tyler tells him to, what does he say, Donnie? Hit me as hard as you can.
Yeah, I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
That's the line. And from that, basically, that's where Fight Club begins, right? Like, they beat the shit out of each other and kind of enjoy it. So then they kind of go with the premise, like, well, we're just going to keep fighting in the parking lot, and then 2 or 3 guys show up, and then 2 or 3 more, and all of a sudden you've got a crowd of guys standing around watching them fight, and then they move it down to the basement of what was it, Lou's Tavern, I think it was the name of the place.
Yeah.
They move it down to the basement of that, and then they're beating the shit out of each other down there with a bunch of people. I love it though when Lou shows up a little bit later on in the movie.
I'm fucking Lou. Who the fuck are you?
Oh, we got a deal worked out with Irving. Well, Irving's got a broken collarbone. He ain't here, so get the fuck out. How does he get rid of Lou?
Lou just basically beats his face in. Tyler goes nuts and tackles him, and it's just like bleeds all over him.
He just
rubs it.
But see, in a real scenario, I don't think that helps.
That's a great scene. That's a great scene.
Oh, it is a great scene, but you're right. It's probably not rooted in reality in the sense of, like, what would you think would really help? What do you think would really happen there if you did that?
Well, I mean, call the police.
Or that other guy
really though,
or that
Lou?
other guy would have shot him.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. There's a line that the narrator says, "You can swallow a pint of blood before you get sick."
Yeah, when he's I think that's when he's, like, at the office and he's just sitting there,
Yeah.
and he somebody says something to him, was it the boss or something, and he just looks up and smiles at him, and he's like, and he's got
bloody teeth.
Yeah. Eventually Marla shows back up, and Tyler ends up having sex with her a lot and very loudly throughout the house in multiple scenes. Like, just screaming, and then, Norton's character's just pacing back and forth, having to listen to it.
And again, went through one of those special effects scenes where they're mid-sex and the camera like rolls all around them.
Yeah, yeah. To kind of show the dream sequence kind of aspect of it all, right? Then you get to the fact that Tyler Durden is a soap maker, but how does he make the soap?
Human fat, right?
Yeah, he sells their own fat asses right back to him.
Which is it's the grossest thing ever too, because they break into this place and take it's like a liposuction place, right?
Yeah.
So they take these huge
like
bags
they have a dumpster out back.
out in the back, and they take these huge bags of just full of bloody fat where they've been liposuctioned, and one of them gets caught on top of the barbed wire fence. I was like, oh fuck!
Do when you're stealing bags of human fat.
Yeah. How many times have I been in that situation, huh? Bob, who you had met earlier, which we may have failed to mention. I don't remember whether in those meetings that he was attending at the beginning of the movie, you meet Bob. He's in the testicular cancer meeting. The reason that Bob sticks out is because, like he says in the movie, Bob has bitch tits. Bob has like women's boobs because I guess the estrogen or something he was taking, something like that, right? And it made him grow tits. Like full on big ass, like floppy double D tits. And so fast forward to this part of the movie where Bob joins up, he shows up, or I guess this is where some of the cracks start to show, which you'll find out what's going on a little bit later. And that like some things are happening without Norton's character knowing what's going on. Like all of a sudden, like he runs into Bob randomly, and Bob has been doing the Fight Club, but meanwhile he's never seen Bob there. Like, wait a minute, what the fuck? So turns to find out, like Tyler's been having all these Fight Club meetings where he's not aware of them, right? Like more Fight Clubs have been going on in various places, and in particular that one place on different nights of the week, other than just that one night a week. It becomes a bigger thing, the Fight Club, right? So now Tyler gives out homework, and the homework for everybody there is to go out and fight a stranger
and lose.
Yeah. Now, Smoke, if we gave you homework and you had to go out and start a fight with a random stranger.
I guess the better question is an actual line that narrator says, if you could fight anyone, who would you fight?
Yeah, that is probably the better question. And myself, I'd probably fight the one that picked the Hellraiser series.
Oh, that's yourself then.
Well,
you sound like in the
wham, wham.
Oh.
No, now I didn't pick the series. Now we had a vote all the way back in like late 2021, I think it was. Like, what's going to be the next series? And everybody voted Hellraiser. So
so
whoever did that, I want to fight them.
I tell you, I already know who I would fight. Okay. I'd fight Don Mancini, the creator of Chucky. I cannot stand those freaking movies, man. Anyway, that's who I'd fight.
That's an unnecessary hatred you have, I think. It's unwarranted. What about you, Will? Who would you fight?
All of y'all.
You made me watch anything. You make me come and record these things. That whole aspect of it, that was a funny sequence when like these people. He's like, it's harder than you would imagine just to go out and pick a fight with a random person, because basically like people don't want to fight back, and he's probably right. Like if you just went up and just did these things that they did and tried to fight people, they probably wouldn't fight back. They'd probably run away from you. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And then just run.
like the priest.
Yeah, he actually kind of fought back a little bit though.
He hit the guy with the hose, and then the guy with the hose started chasing him. He's like, sorry.
And then he drops the Bible, and then he just turns the hose on the Bible, and that's when the guy says no.
Of course, now a lot of with people being strapped, they don't want to get in fights anyway, so they're going to pull a gun and blast their ass.
Well, then there's that aspect of it. Yeah, like you go out and punch some random person, you might die. So we don't encourage it. But speaking of beating the shit out of people, he beats the shit out of himself, and that's how he's able to like get paid, but yet not have to work anymore, right? He basically beats the shit out of himself in his boss's office, and then like crawls up his boss right when like security walks in, so it looks like the boss has beat the shit out of him. And then he's walking out smiling with like the computer
blood, a bunch of office equipment. He's got blood pouring from his face, just whistling.
Did they say he got like basically a year's worth of salary and like a bunch of free tickets to fly and all that? So that's how they were able to fund Fight Club and make it an every night bigger thing than even that had grown to this point. Then you see them start to do like random mayhem. Now they end up calling it Project Mayhem, but basically that's all it is at first. It's like, go pop somebody's tires or whatever the hell they were doing. These random acts of stupidity, mayhem, however you want to phrase it, anarchy kind of, right? Basically out of that, though, he's able to start building an army. Like these guys like Bob and all these other dudes that are totally devoted and like move into the house with him, and Tyler Durden, and he is God, right? They are gods. Angel Face, it's Jared Leto's character. He is kind of starting to climb up the rung a little bit. So Norton's character, basically in a fight in the Fight Club, just beats the teetotal shit out of him. I mean, fucks his face all up.
Oh yeah.
And what was what was the line that he said? Why he did it?
He wanted to break something that was beautiful or something like that.
He wanted to destroy something beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see him until a little bit later, I guess, once he's healed up a little bit. But like, man, his face is all jacked. Like, he looks like a damn
broken nose. Like nose is on one side, the other side of his face, and his eyes all. Yeah, he's just fucked up.
Yeah. Then you have the scene of Tyler wrecking the car. Like Tyler is driving, Norton, is beside him, and what was that? What was the point of that? Was basically let go of all kind of thing, right? And they literally just let go of the steering wheel, and then of course it just nails a car that's parked on the side of the road, but they're all okay. They get rolled up, but they're okay.
They have that Project Mayhem. I guess they're vandalizing an art installation, and I guess they exploded the base of a ball or whatever, like a sculpture. Sculpture rolls down. Anyway, so I guess they're running away, and then the cop, I guess security guard or something, ends up shooting Bob, killing him.
Yeah.
They bring him back and, put him on the table in the house, and they take off his little
that was
toboggan hat.
Like, the narrator, Norton's character, comes in and is like, what happened to Bob? And he pulls that toboggan back, and then his brains just spill out. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the gorier scenes in the movie, right? When you say, I mean, there's a couple other moments, but that's probably the holy shit, moment of the movie.
Yeah, that's the actual gore, because up to that point, it's like just brutal fisticuff type violence and stuff for the most part. But yeah, that was the actual, probably the goriest scene at that point, yeah.
Not long after this, because, Bob was his friend, right? So, like, he kind of starts to go down the slippery slope of, like, he finally comes to the realization that he himself, Edward Norton, the narrator, he is Tyler Durden. He is Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah.
So now
he starts, putting the pieces together, and then
you get into that. That's the big reveal of, like, holy shit! This whole time, everything that has happened, he's doing it. It's like a split personality kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and it kind of backtracks, and it is, you see, when they bring in, I guess is maybe the politician. I don't remember what it is. Where they say they're going to castrate the politician in the bathroom, where it was Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden, like in his face saying, "Do not fuck with us." In the, I guess, flashback or whatever, it's actually Edward Norton.
Yeah. So everything that has happened has been Edward Norton doing this himself. Brad Pitt's character does not exist. It's inside of his head. Now, the question I have to that, though, is his name Tyler Durden? I know, like, his bad personality, so to speak, right? The devil on his shoulder, his name is Tyler Durden. But is this guy, Edward Norton's character, the narrator, is he Tyler Durden, or is that like his bad persona? And he has another name that we never learned.
Good question. You never see typically in an office you'll have like a nameplate, and you never see a nameplate. His boss never calls his name. Nobody else ever calls his name in the movie. Mm-hmm. So good question. I don't know.
What do you think, Smoke?
I've never novel, so I don't know if the novel, if novel's the same way or not, or if they give him a name or whatever. But I don't know. I would assume, I don't know. I guess it just leaves you up to interpretation. I mean, it could just be that Tyler Durden is the AKA of this other personality that's more assertive or whatever. Maybe that is his real name. I don't know. I think it just leaves it up to interpretation, that you can kind of figure it out on yourself, whichever way you think it is. But like I said, I don't know if the novel does it the same way or if it's actually gives him a name separate.
In the end, I guess it really doesn't matter, right? But it would be interesting to know, like, well, was that his name all along, or is that just like he has snapped and that's his crazy name, so to speak? Now he's going by the name Tyler Durden and nobody really knows who this fucking dude is. But interesting. So now he is trying to go back and undo everything that he has done. He has set all these wheels in motion without even fully being aware of what he was doing. So now he's like kind of trying to backtrack. He literally hops from plane to plane to city where they've set up other fight clubs and they have all these things in place. And literally everywhere he goes, everybody's like, is this have you seen me before? Or is this a test? No, it's not a fucking test. Like everywhere he goes, he's having, like, everybody's testing themselves on him, But he finds that there are multiple bombs in multiple locations all across the city, and basically the plan is to blow up these banking centers, right? So the thought process would be, if you blow up all the banks, everybody's credit goes back to zero. Everybody's on a level playing field, right? That's kind of the end game of what they're doing here.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
So basically the big showdown in the end is Tyler and the narrator, which we know now is he's fighting with himself. He basically has a big knockdown track out with himself and then has himself, takes himself up to the top of the building or whatever so they can watch all the buildings blow up. Just before it's about to happen, Tyler has a gun, right? Brad Pitt's character has a gun. He's like, wait a minute, if I'm you, that means I have the gun. And then all of a sudden the gun appears in his hand. He takes the gun, puts it in his mouth, pow. It only kind of goes through what, like, the side
maybe his cheek or something?
The side of his face. But for Tyler, Pitt's character, it actually goes to the back of his head and kills Tyler Durden. It kills that persona, right?
Yeah.
And then just basically right at the same moment, or right after that, I should say, his goons brings Marla up there, and then they just kind of hold hands and turn around and watch all the buildings blow up. The end. I love that they played Where's My Mind by the Pixies. That's a perfect fucking song for that moment in this movie. Will, what do you think about the way this ended and the way did it make sense?
Oh no, I think it made perfect sense. I mean, for this character to kind of finally become full circle and become what you would assume whole again.
Yeah, because I think he even delivers the line of, like, she says, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, actually, I am. I'm okay." So you do.
He met me at a really weird time.
Yeah, he met me at a really weird time in my life. But it does. You're right. It does kind of come full circle in that, like, all the problems that he's dealt with throughout this entire movie, you've seen play out. Now he's, it took some fucked up shit, right? But he's mentally, I guess he's okay, or as okay as you're going to be in this scenario, right?
Yeah. Now, you were talking about the book earlier. I read the book, like, oh my goodness, like probably 15 years ago, it feels like. I do not remember if they ever actually said who's who, but the end of the book is slightly different. I don't know. Should I say the end of the book in this, or?
Well, we're spoiler filled, so I think it's fair game. Just know from here on, if you've never read the book, spoiler alert.
So he's upstairs in the building, and Marla and the entire group of people that he was going to meetings, like, with, I'll come up and meet him.
His goons or whatever.
No, not his goons. Like the people that were in the meetings.
Okay, I got you.
They go and meet him at the top of this building, and I believe they brought the cops. All the explosives that he made wrong. Ends up going to a mental institution, and while he's in there, he's just like, all right, well, I can't hurt anybody. Like this is the best thing for me. And like I'm pretty sure it's like the last line in the book is somebody slides the little opening in the door, and there's two guards standing out there, and one of them looks back and says, "Don't worry, Mr. Durden, everything's still going exactly as planned." So it's that book is a mind F from beginning to end.
Yeah. Now, I have not read it, the original novel or anything like that, but there actually were 2 sequels to not movies, not books, but graphic novels, comics. They released Fight Club 2 and Fight Club 3, written by Chuck Palahniuk, right? Years ago, like all the way back to like 2014 15 or so, I think, something like that. So I haven't read. I actually have. I want to say like the graphic novel of Fight Club 2 and haven't watched it or read it. But yeah, they do exist. So if you want to read what I guess would be sequels from the source, they do exist. So if that interests you, go check them out. Now, I didn't see them on Audible when we looked some stuff up there during the break, but yeah, they are out there, so you might want to get your hands on those. Be interested to see where they went with it, where he goes with it, after what happened there, But I would imagine it'd be more of a follow-up. I think it's more of a follow-up to the book than, say, follow-up to what we just watched in this movie. So there you go. That's Fight Club. Now, Will, since you nominated this one and we spun the wheel and it landed on it, we'll go ahead and let you go first. So what's your star rating here? Now, remember, this is Cult Corner, so we're not necessarily comparing this to Hellraiser, Hellseeker, or any of that other stuff. So,
well, too bad, because this would be like one of the few times I would give out a 5.
Yeah.
I love this movie. From the first time I saw it, dude, easily double digits how many times I've seen this, but like probably into like the 20 or 30 range at least. Wow. I love this movie. It's such a fun movie to go back and look for like little hidden Easter eggs. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Donnie, what do you say?
I gotta echo Willie. It's a 5. I think it's a crime to give it anything less than. I could get maybe 4.5, maybe even 4, but anything less would be crime. But it's a 5 for me. Love this movie. It's awesome. It's just always a great watch.
Anything less would be uncivilized, which means I'm about to be uncivilized. I'm going to give it 4.5 and I only say it because it's not like the perfect movie, but it really is. It's a movie that's in my wheelhouse, but I can see some flaws with it. There's some, not many, but there's some. But I love this movie. I've seen it multiple times, and for me, honestly, on my scale, and I know it's kind of a separate scale for Cult Corner, I don't quite put this in the category of Goodfellas. And I gave a 5 to Goodfellas. So just being fair to that one and kind of how I feel on it right now, that's what I'm going to say. But, hey, you never know. Come October, I might have a change of heart, and I might decide to, fuck it, it's a 5. But right now, I'm going to say 4.5. Smoke, what do you say?
Everything's been said, I guess, that we could say about it, other than that, we go into the deep dives here, but one place we don't go too deep into because we're a movie entertainment thing is politics, society, culture, and things like that. And there's a lot of things going on in this movie that are to do with all three of those factors as well. So, absolutely. But we're not going back in deep dive here. But let's just say there's a lot of meat on the bone there for that, too, if you want to get into that aspect of it. But, yeah, this movie, I don't think I could give it any less than a 5 as well here. And, I mean, this is Cult Corner. So it gets, things are maybe could be a little bit boosted or elevated or whatever. But even if it wasn't a Cult Corner, I might still go with a 5. But, yeah, that's 5 stars.
So that brings the consensus for us to a 4.8 out of 5 stars. So I guess I was the wet blanket there. I brought it down. I fucked the curve up a little bit, but hey, it's just the way I see it. By and large, I think the critics pretty much, and just the audiences and everything, the aggregates that we look at, they've pretty much agreed. IMDb gets 8.8 out of 10 stars, which is pretty high on there. For that many people to vote, that's pretty high. Metascore was actually a lot lower than I thought it would be. Out of 100, it's only 66. I was kind of surprised by that. Over on Rotten Tomatoes, on the tomato meter, 79%, which, we've had ones that are higher than that, but still, that's really good, and it is certified fresh on tomato meter. And the audience score, 96%. That's probably one of the higher audience scores we've seen over on Rotten Tomatoes. So there you go. That's our final thoughts as far as our star ratings and all that stuff is concerned. But we're not out of here quite yet. We don't do the gore score. We don't do the highlight kill. We don't do the kill count because this wasn't a horror movie. Although there were some gory aspects to it, but we're not going to go deep into that. But we do have.
Bonnie, where's the Cult Connections? Come out and play.
Well, come on
All
out.
right. All right. So, yeah, I had been kind of.
Cut that off.
You're not gonna go. That's a running joke here. Yeah. So I had actually kind of touted this up to you guys that I had a good one.
Oh yeah, I
good
forgot
good connection for Fight Club. So basically on the crew side, I'll start with the crew side. We have makeup effects. Margaret Prentice also worked on The Howling and Evil Dead 2. So pretty good connection there. Also on the cast side, you never actually see his face, but Ryan Locke played a model in Fight Club, and he was also in the past Spook Show episode, The Ginger Dead Man.
That's it.
He played Amos Cadbury.
He played Honky Sausage #1. Good God.
Bro.
The Ginger Dead. You know what? I don't know how many connections you've had to the Ginger Dead Man. There hadn't been many, have there?
Not much. Not much.
It's not one we hear. It's usually you're talking about House of Wax or Garbage Pail Kids movie or something. So that's a good one. Well, there you go. That's where we'll leave it. Great movie. Great nomination by you, Will. It was nice just to be able to sit down and watch it because it's been the first time in quite some time, probably in the last 8 to 10 years that I've sit down and watched this movie from like the beginning to end. So it was nice to sit down and watch it again. So good pull. Next week, hopefully, it's a good pull again. Donnie, you picked it. It's going to be your next selection, and you get to pick an older one. So what'd you pick? What are you going to throw at us?
So I picked. I had actually picked a Cronenberg film a while back when we did the Fly remake. So I dipped into Cronenberg again this time around, and I chose Videodrome.
Will, I know you've seen that one a number of times, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. That's what I get for assuming, you know. The IMDb synopsis for that one is: a programmer at a TV station that specializes in adult entertainment searches for the producers of a dangerous and bizarre broadcast. That one's from 1983. Like you said, directed and written by David Cronenberg. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. So
yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, we got some other cool things coming down the pipe after Videodrome. So you want to stick to aaspookshow.com and of course all of our socials and everything. And we encourage you to go join us up on Patreon at patreon.com/aaspookshow. So for Donnie, Will, the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We're from the All-American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next week for Videodrome.
Please replace the speaker on its rack when you're ready to leave. Failure to do so will damage both the speaker and your car. We'll be grateful, and so will the patrons who follow you.